Everybody in? Colonel? The other Colonel? Former Colonel? Yes, sir. All right, well, y'all, thank you very much for coming. This is a good moment. South Carolina is making a lot of progress. We have great leadership. We have great ideas. And we have a great team. And this interlock device, this legislation is something that it's not a new idea, but sometimes it takes a while to implement an idea. And we've taken some steps, and now we're taking another giant step to make things more safe, more happy for the people of our state. So we have several speakers, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. Senator.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Brad Hutto, State Senator from Orangeburg, and it's a pleasure to be here today on this great day for highway safety in South Carolina. It's been a lot of hard work. A lot of people have been involved from the very beginning. This idea sort of came about through the tragic death of Emma Longstreet nearly a decade ago when we passed Emma's Law and had IIDs initially put on cars in South Carolina for multiple offenders. And it's always been our goal to try and move this down so that anybody who has shown a propensity to use bad judgment and get behind the wheel after they've had too much to drink would have to encounter this new technology that's come about and was basically stop you from making the bad decision that you thought you were about to make. So it's been a while. I'm probably an unlikely person to have been behind this. I've represented close to 3,000 people who've been accused of DUI. I'm a DUI defense lawyer. But I see it every day. And my clients come in and they're making bad judgments. And my gosh, when I saw that this machine could help them not make those bad judgments, I said, you know, we've got to do this, even though it might cause me to lose half my clients. But, you know, it's the right thing to do. It's right for highway safety. And I've represented people on the other side, too. I've represented people whose families have suffered the tragedy of being hit by a DUI driver. And it is one of the most tragic things that can happen to any family. And so this is the opportunity to, if we can't eradicate it, I don't think we can, you know, they tried getting rid of alcohol way back when, that didn't work. So it's not going to happen. But we can try and make people make better decisions. I think just the notion that you know the machine is on your car may cause you to think twice before even attempting to start your car. But even if you think you can fool it, that's the thing about technology. It's going to catch you. It's not going to let that car start up. And if you think you're smart enough to go buy the six-pack and blow first and then start driving, nope, you've got to keep blowing into this device as you continue driving. So it is going to save lives. We know from the data from Triple P and others over the course of time that these devices have been on cars in South Carolina. It has stopped literally thousands of people who attempted to drive with alcohol in their system, and it didn't let them. So the fact that this bill will allow us to get this device on more cars is going to save even more lives. And so to my friends in the House, I don't know what took you so long, but we passed it in the Senate for 3 consecutive sessions, and I know sometimes legislation can be a challenge, and but good ideas don't go away, okay? And this has always been a good idea. It's always been good policy, and it's taken us a while to get here, but we're here now, and I want to thank everybody who participated in making sure that this happened.
Thank you. Yes?
Thank you so much, Governor McMaster and Senator Hutto as well. It's such an honor to be here. My name is Tess Rowland, and I'm the National President of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and I'm so thrilled to be here with you all today. This is really an exciting day for South Carolina and truly our entire organization. It has been several years since any state has passed a law that will save as many lives from the preventable crime of drunk driving as this law will. We applaud the leadership of Senator Brad Hutto, House Judiciary Chairman Weston Newton, House Subcommittee Chairman Jeff Johnson, Speaker Merle Smith, and so many others in the House and Senate that have helped complete this 5-year journey to pass an all-offender ignition interlock law. And the final votes of near unanimous support were so inspiring and show that South Carolina is ready for a new day in how they approach impaired driving. And like so many here today, this cause is very personal to me. It is my utmost honor in this job to represent the near million survivors and victims of this crime. Take a look around this room. Listen to their stories. I was driving into work as a television news reporter on May 4th, 2021 in Panama City Beach, Florida. I was a morning reporter, so I woke up very early in the morning. I was traveling to work, going the same way I always did, when suddenly I saw what I thought were headlights coming right at me. I still see those lights every time I close my eyes. And suddenly I woke up in a hospital bed, and I went from being a 22-year-old girl that had never had any serious injuries, had never broken a bone in my life, to needing several emergency surgeries for fractures to my shoulder, arm, elbow, knee, and internal injuries as well. Today, I've had 7 surgeries. I have very large scars, and I think the saddest part about my story is that it's just a matter of time until I'll need the next surgery. The tragedy for these families in this room, like myself, never ends, no matter how much time passes by. South Carolina's ignition interlock law is named after, of course, Miss Emma Longstreet, who should still be here with us today. She was taken from us on New Year's Day, 2012. Now South Carolina's laws move closer to giving Emma the legacy that she deserved, but she still lives on in our hearts. More crashes prevented, more stories, more lives from being impacted, and more lives saved. Because we know that mandatory ignition interlock laws reduce drunk driving deaths by 16%, and in this country, since 2006, ignition interlock devices have stopped more than 4.5 million drunk driving trips from occurring before they steal a life. Far too few of those stops came here in South Carolina, but soon that number will grow and these roads will get safer for everyone traveling to live and work and play and just visit this great state. There's more work to be done, but this is an incredible start here today. So thank you so much again for letting Mothers Against Drunk Driving be a wonderful part and remembrance of Emma and so many other victims and survivors who have inspired us to get to and fight for this day. And as we approach this, I hope we get to that future, and I know we will, of no more victims. Thank you. And now I'll turn my attention to Colonel Williamson.
Good morning. Colonel Chris Williamson, Commander of the South Carolina Highway Patrol. Thank you to Governor McMaster, Senator Hutto, and our esteemed legislators who worked very hard to get us where we are today. At the South Carolina Department of Public Safety and the Highway Patrol, our troopers and officers are on the front lines combating impaired driving each and every day. And every day, we see firsthand the devastating impacts of impaired driving on people who lose a family member, a friend, or simply the ability to walk or enjoy life the way they used to. All because someone made the reckless and selfish decision to drive impaired. Despite the efforts of law enforcement and advocates, the heartfelt pleas from victims and survivors, committee meetings, hearings, and State House lobbying, despite it all, South Carolina remains one of the top states for lives lost in DUI-related collisions. Of the 1,037 traffic fatalities that occurred last year in South Carolina, 33% were attributed to alcohol impairment. 33%. That's over 300. However, we are encouraged by the passing of Senate Bill 36 as Governor McMaster signs it into law today. By requiring ignition interlock devices for more offenders, we are confident that this law will prevent thousands of attempts by impaired drivers are in no shape to be behind the wheel of a motor vehicle. We remind our troopers often that statistics will always show you how many lives were lost, but they will never show you how many lives are saved because of their actions. We know this law is not a cure-all for impaired driving by any means, but expanding the criteria for those who will now be required to install these ignition interlock devices will help prevent more South Carolinians from becoming another grim statistic. And that is something that our agency is proud of and we support in an enforcement efforts very strongly. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Yes, sir.
Well, it said good legislation, good ideas sometimes take a little while, but this one's well worth waiting for. I want to recognize a lot of people have been leaders in this area, but none any longer than Laura Hudson, who's been on the front lines of this and other things, I think, her entire life. And we're glad to have you here with us today as well. I'm glad to be here. Thank you. There's just a couple of things. One is it's okay to drink if you want to, and it's okay to drive if you want to, but you can't do them both at the same time. And I look forward to the day that we have, with more and more artificial intelligence and all these new technologies that are coming along, that we can improve. We've got the best law enforcement, I believe, in the country, but they can't stop this by themselves. They need help, and this will go a long way. And I believe that the system will be improved, the technology will be improved until one day I hope those statistics will be zero. That's what we're looking for. We want all our people to be safe and happy and develop their talents to the fullest opportunity. So we'll be glad to answer questions.
Does this all go far enough? Should people arrested for DUI need one of these devices to get a temporary license?
Senator?
I think so, and we passed that in the Senate, but passing a law all the way through and getting it to the governor's desk is a compromise sometimes, and so that won't stop us from trying to, as I keep saying, move it down. We had the multiple offenders, now we got it down to first offense, moving it down to the time of the arrest, because quite frankly, in my practice, what I see is that people who make this decision, they didn't wake up saying, I wanted to go out and commit a crime, okay? But they woke up and thinking, I didn't have that much to drink, or I can do it. I mean, they just believe that. It's bad judgment. That bad judgment, once they get that arrest, get that night in jail, for a lot of them, you know, that's the wake-up call that they need. But there are others out there who are, they're you know, alcoholics, and they almost can't help themselves. They need this device, and they need it at early intervention. And that's why I thought, when I introduced the bill, that if we could put it on before they could even get their license back, you know, when they get arrested, license taken away, before you can get your license back, put the device on. And we have that passed through the Senate. We'll try it again. And it took us 3 years to educate the House on this part. It might take us 3 more to get them on that. But oh, I am willing to. I think it's important. I look, every life saved is a life saved. I mean, I don't think we can let that go by. And this technology has the power to save lives. And so we'll try and get it done.
Representative Johnson, can you explain to the House why you did not want that particular provision in the law?
It was really that we didn't want it in there. Like Senator Hutto said, it was really a compromise to get this bill forward, and I look forward to working with the senator next year. It was a priority of mine and Chairman Newton's to get this bill out, and we got it out. And I'm proud, you know, to get this bill on the floor, get it on the House floor, get it passed, and get it to the governor. And we did. Thank you.
That part. The House team this year did a great job. I mean, we got out what we could get out. Okay, we passed what we could pass, and we'll try again. And so I understand that you know, there are forces out there who didn't want this and didn't want it to go that far. We'll have to tackle that part again. But I know that the House is going to, now that they've come around on this part, we'll work on the other.
You know, you don't want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You just keep rolling. More questions?
Just for clarity, Senator Hutto, anyone who is convicted of a DUI will now have to have one of these devices on their vehicle.
That's right.
Is there a specific time they're going to have that device on?
Is it is it 6 months? 6 months, yeah.
That's
First offense, and I think second offense is a year. Yeah. The cost, and there are people who can speak to that. I think the cost is in the range of $150 to get it installed, and then you have to pay, what is it, $60, $75? $3 a day. Because the device is through technology is hooked to the internet and then monitored. So there's a monitoring component to this, because if we find that a person habitually tries to start their car and is getting stopped, they can actually go to jail for that, for violating the ignition interlock device law. I mean, you can't intentionally keep, people make mistakes, right? But if you go out there every night and try and start up your car, then eventually you're going to get enough demerits, or I don't know what they call them, points against your ignition interlock, that they're going to come back and charge you with a separate offense.
More questions? Yes, sir?
I was wondering what it's going to take to get the victim impact panel in every county in South Carolina. Presently, it's only in a few. I live in Beaufort County, and I've written multiple letters to our local judges, and I've spoken to our local prosecutor that was recently assigned within the past year to handle the backlog of 340 DUI cases in Beaufort County alone, and they shot it down. They were not interested in doing it, and I don't understand what the opposition to it would be when it has a 92% success rate of reducing the recidivism rate of a drunk driver.
I attended, I went to, I don't know what you'd call it, conference maybe in Nevada. And as part of that, we went to one of these, it was in like a gymnasium, and the victims' families were there. And everybody who'd been accused, like in the last 2 months, was required to be there as part of their, before they could move forward with their case. They had to go to one of these, what do you call it, victim impact? Panels. It was impactful. I tell you, when you hear, because a lot of times people aren't thinking through the entire process, but when you hear the outcome, the tragic outcome, it, well, quite frankly, sobers you up, okay? I mean, there were people there. I was there as part of a learning experience, but I was there with a group of offenders from Nevada and talked to some of them afterwards, and they just didn't realize the potential, really the bullet they dodged by just getting the charge but not getting in an accident. So I think they work. Whether we make it a requirement or not, or whether that's a county by county or circuit by circuit, I don't know. We looked at that at one point in time. It had a cost factor to it, but I'm not opposed to that. We can look at it again. But I don't think we've had any recent legislation to require it.
Require that, and, I think talking to Duffy Stone, I've talked to him, he's for having the panels, so.
The panels work. I'll say that. They work.
In regards to the cost, though, I would think that if you ask even the families that are here today, I personally would volunteer to do it for free if it would make a difference. So that would eliminate the cost. If you ask families that have been affected by this to do it for free, I have no doubt that you would probably have an overwhelming amount that would come forward that want their story heard and want their loved one remembered, and for that statement to be made, especially considering how successful it is at dropping that recidivism rate.
Hi, I'm Stephen Bird. I'm the Regional Executive Director for Mothers Against Drunk Driving in the Carolinas. So the primary victim impact panel available in South Carolina is a MAD victim impact panel. We are down to just a few places where we have them in person. It can be challenging with logistics and volunteers and having that consistency, because when you offer a court-ordered program, you have to have, you can't miss a day because they show up expecting that. But we have an online victim impact panel that actually is more used than our in-person panels and is incredibly powerful even for an online program. So there are some states that have gone to mandatory victim impact panels. We get about 1,600 people a year in our VIP, but that's far less number of people that get convicted. It's not required by law for judges to sentence that, but it's something that the state could take a look at, because certainly, yes, they are life-changing, powerful experiences to hear people pour out their stories, whether you're watching them on the screen or live. So it's one of many things on the list that South Carolina can examine to go even further beyond this great thing that we've done today. Thank you.
Time for 2 more questions. How many DUIs a year do we have?
Say what?
How many DUIs in the state? For the highway patrol alone, we usually write anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 DUI arrests per year. That's just the highway patrol alone. I have seen years where the whole state law enforcement, we have written as many as 15,000 DUIs, made as many as 15,000 DUIs arrests, and that fluctuates from year to year.
What about the cost if people can't afford it or they don't pay? What's the impact?
In the bill, we put a provision in there that you can apply for it if you can't afford it. You go make an application, show that you meet the standards for not being able to afford it, and there's a fund available. The fund's already funded. There's money in the fund, and so it will pay not only for the initial hookup, but it will pay the monthly monitoring fees if you qualify. Because just because you might be poor or might not have a job doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to have the device and it shouldn't be out there saving lives regardless. Well, if they don't apply for it, then they're not going to get their license back. Now, granted, and the Colonel can tell you, there are a lot of people in South Carolina who drive without a license, okay? But well, I don't know that we can, that's a different issue to tackle, is whether or not people just choose to disobey the law.
Who is driving without their license, if they're driving that car, it's supposed to start with
If you got pulled over by law enforcement, they could call in to the dispatch, and the dispatch would tell them whether that person was supposed to have an ignition interlock or not. So yes, right on the scene, the officer should know whether the person's in violation of the law or not. There is a little bit of an exception. If you are working, we assume that your boss isn't going to let you drive the vehicle if you show up intoxicated. So you don't have to have one in the work vehicle. You could be required to have one, and you could be in your work vehicle, but more likely not, that's going to be in the middle of the day. Other than that, they would know that if you're in any vehicle and your name comes up, they should be able to look and see that you are in a car with a device or not.
I'd like to say something. I'd like to thank our governor for supporting this legislation and safety on our highways for years. As the Attorney General, same thing, you've been with us a long time. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the desk.
Squeeze on in a little bit tighter. Is everybody in the